The Odaiba artificial island complex was one of the most ambitious, largest, and most expensive projects of the Tokyo government, but it never became what they intended. Well, let's see. The fact is that Odaiba has its part, which is quite touristy and pretty well connected. But the idea is to reach certain areas where the Yurikamome line doesn't go. So we're going to rent a bike. But anyway, let's start with a little bit of history. Odaiba was like a group of artificial islands that were made during the Edo era, so around 1850 something. But what happened? Why? Because it turns out that was the time when feudal Japan was completely closed off to the world. And some American trading ships had come by here and were told foreigners can pass through here. And that left them a bit worried. So they left a sort of warning letter saying they were asking for the borders to be opened so everyone could be friends. And so the Shogun Tokugawa at that time created one of these artificial islands we have here. There were 6 in total, but only 2 remain. This is number 6 and number 3. This island number 6 was the largest of them all. Down there was where they could set up a base, and the upper part was for placing defense cannons. Because of course it was said that, well, foreigners are going to come and invade us, so we have to be prepared. And in those days, it was very hard work because obviously the process was very slow. It was basically filling the island with rocks as much as possible to make a man-made island. There, right where the boat is passing, that island in the back is island number 3. Of the historic islands, only those 2 remain. The other 3 are already part of the mainland, so to speak, part of the main area of Tokyo. These islands were never used and no battle occurred there since everything ended through diplomatic means. So everything was settled and, well, the rest is history. Now, this part you see here and much more are modern artificial islands. They were planned since the 70s and the islands were finished being built around the 90s. One of the first buildings that was put here and one of the most iconic is the Fuji television building, Channel 8. Look here at the entrance. They even have tourist brochures that explain the history. Commodore Matthew Perry was the one in charge, the one who came with a large fleet handling diplomatic matters so that Japan would open its borders. But look, do you see the space we saw there in the middle? That's where the booth was. This is the island now, and look, this is how it supposedly looked during the Edo era. You can see the islets there. And now, right, only this one and this one are left. This is new, and the rest became part of the land because, of course, the whole coast was also artificially expanded. And this is one of the few beaches in Tokyo. In total, there are only 4 beaches in Tokyo, and this is one of them. Swimming is not allowed at any of them, supposedly. On that side, there are several people, but no one gets wetter than their feet. Supposedly, you can only get wet below the knee. You can go into the water. Sometimes when the kids are around 4 or 5 years old, they don't say anything to them, but supposedly, you're not supposed to swim here because, first of all, a lot of boats pass by. And another thing, the water quality isn't very good, since this part of the sea is where several large rivers from Tokyo flow into. When there are heavy rains, they can bring a lot of trash along the way. There is Himiko, which is a little boat that goes from Asakusa to here in about 40 minutes, 30 minutes. And what's curious is that a lot of people see this and say, that's a submarine, it goes underwater. No, what happens is that it's actually part of the futuristic design because the one who designed it was Raishi Matsumoto. He's a now deceased famous anime and manga author who specialized in science fiction, but from the 1960s, I mean, it's a space style, kind of retro, right? But I love it because it's part of that futuristic atmosphere that Odaiba neighborhood was supposed to have. And obviously, it's not one of those authentic neighborhoods you find in Tokyo with alleys and places to eat and all that. Here, basically, if you want to eat somewhere, it has to be inside a mall. So, well, let's go to Diversity which is one of the relatively newest malls in this area. It's probably, I don't know, less than 10 years old. They've already replaced the Gundam here. It used to be a different model. This one is now a must-see for tourists like this. Honestly, it's really worth it because it's very impressive. It's a giant robot about 30 meters tall. Oh, well, 18.5 meters, not even close.
But seriously, doesn't it seem 100 meters tall?
Well, the food court has several places to order from. Luckily, the quality is pretty good, even though it's just a food court and really cheap, just $10 for a meal. Well, there's minadon, which is a bowl of rice with meat and a raw egg to put on top, which gives it its magic touch. I ordered the large one. That's the normal size. Beer, all for 3,600 yen, which is about $25, more or less. Very cheap. And without beer, obviously, it would have been much cheaper. Plus, you can go get yourself some water and everything. Yeah, a lot of people, I've already explained this before, make a mistake that many people make is that when they get dishes like this, they start eating from the top and leave all the rice at the bottom. You always have to dig in to eat rice and meat. Also, well, Odaiba mainly has 3 shopping malls. And I could say this is the one I like the most. Eldex is the other one I really like, which I like because it has this hallway, which is a hallway all retro decorations. It makes me really sad because there used to be retro arcades here, but they took them out for a paid museum. The entrance costs $8. I've never gone in, and I'm not interested in going in, but oh well. This is where I came to do. I opened surprise boxes. All of this is a scam. Everything here is pure crap. What's in these boxes? What's the camera doing here? Well, it doesn't matter. The thing is, I was gonna play a little game of this. You can try to get figures and things from these machines. But the truth is, they're all just a scam. And we reached one of the ends. One of the many there are in Odaiba. What we have until we get here are just container areas. Let's see. The government's first plan when building these islands was to make Odaiba a modern office area, a super futuristic tourist area, and, well, also a bit of port areas. But the thing is, a large part of the whole Odaiba area is just port. I'm not sure their investment in building these islands was worth it just for them to become container zones. The thing is, that area over there, which is all port, you can only get there through a tunnel. You can't get there on foot, although I think there was some bridge that connected from somewhere over there. But anyway, the thing is that the whole Odaiba area was built because thanks to the big economic bubble in the 80s in Japan, there was a good budget to do a land or sea reclamation project and to be able to build the islands where the canon positions of the Tokugawa clan from the 19th century were originally located. In the 90s, the economic bubble burst. Japan went into an economic recession and basically everything went bad. The islands were already finished and the Yurikomom line was even built in '95, which was a super glamorous train that even runs without a driver. You can sit at the front and see the whole way. It crosses a big bridge. It has beautiful views. They built Fuji Television, 2 shopping malls, and that's how Odaiba was left. I mean, when I arrived in Japan, for example, the island was less than 15 years old. It was already outdated. It was retro-futuristic, almost like 80s futuristic. It makes me laugh because getting here by bike was quite a long ride, full of container areas. It wasn't even a friendly path for biking or even walking sometimes because the road is completely neglected. But there are people who come to this side because there's a little park and even a parking lot, and some people come here to fish. Many people fish here for sport. They might keep their catch or release it, depending on how they feel. We came all this way for nothing. For this, I had said that in Tokyo there were only 4 beaches where you can't swim. Of course, there aren't more beaches because basically the entire Tokyo Bay is used as a port or is completely urbanized. So there isn't a single beach where you can take a dip in Tokyo Prefecture. But I repeat, we're riding bicycles because the area is really big. There's the tourist area, the non-tourist area, and there's also the residential area. Now, but the area where there are houses near this area, right next to one of the malls or next to Fuji Television, there are two apartments available. One is 64 square meters and the other is 54. And it's a one-bedroom with a living dining room. And they cost $800,000. And that's because I'm converting it to dollars, because in yen, it would be the equivalent of about $1.2 million, but in Japanese currency, right? Due to devaluation, it's slightly cheaper in dollars, but still very expensive. Oh, and here, this is the Tokyo Big Sight. Tokyo Big Sight is a place where a lot of big events are held. For example, Comiket, which is an event I used to attend twice a year, because there was always one in summer and one in winter. And it's the biggest otaku event in Japan, very dedicated to cosplay, and very dedicated to doujins, which are independently produced manga, right? I mean, the nice thing about this is that people at these events can have the freedom to make manga with famous characters, as long as you don't use the original titles. You can use them as, I don't know, like it's very common. I don't know about One Piece. Using the same designs, making them exact, but some gay romantic story. That's something super common in doujins. But of course, you don't have to use the title, and that's completely legal and allowed. They say it's so as not to limit the creativity of independent authors, right? But anyway, it's nice. But of course, there's nothing around here. In front, there are only offices, less. In fact, I remember that the Chinese visa office is there. Son of a bitch, the paperwork you have to do there is unbearable. Now, this building behind me is supposed to be the place with the most expensive apartment available for purchase in the entire Odaiba area. It costs 248 million yen, which is about $1.6 million. And it's 93 square meters. And from what I can see, it has nice views. But $1.6 million, considering that here you have absolutely nothing. I mean, well, yes, where there are a lot of homes, there's always a supermarket. But honestly, that's the only thing. Here, wherever you want to go, you have to take a lot of public transportation because you have to leave the island, or you really have to, like driving. Well, it's not like they don't have anything around either. They have the small world. It's kind of like an amusement park. Well, not really an amusement park. It's like a kind of museum with dioramas of a whole miniature world, and it has a giant EVA there. Because, for example, among the many things the museum has, let's say, they have a miniature version of Tokyo 3 or Neo Tokyo from Evangelion. It's nice. What I liked about this place is that they have a kind of service where they take a 3D photo of you, and then you can choose the scale, and they can send it to you by mail afterwards. It's not done right away. They send you a miniature of your 3D photo, so you have a little figure of yourself. I did it with my wife, and honestly, it's nice and cute. It took about 2 months, depending on the wait time. So if you're coming as a tourist for a short time, you probably won't get it in time. I'm not saying you needed to come here. And here is the Tokyo market, which is basically the big fish market where they hold the famous tuna auctions and all that. But at 5 in the afternoon, they had just closed. But anyway, whether it's open or not, it doesn't matter, because there's absolutely nothing to see here. There are just a few small restaurants. It's not worth it at all. And as for what you can see of the auctions, you have to come at 5 in the morning, and you'll see it from a balcony, high up and far away, because they moved the big market here to improve the infrastructure. Since the old market was very old, they added that tourists shouldn't have access. So they can't come in and bother anyone. And across the street is this place, which is really nice, very picturesque. And the food prices around here are also very touristy. It's all decorated in the Edo era style, all wood, lots of traditional food, sushi. The quality of the food is very good, but it's quite a bit more expensive than what you would pay anywhere else in Tokyo. There are little stalls out here, and then inside there are more stalls as well. Honestly, I've probably eaten here once or twice. And yes, at least 50% more expensive than any other place in Tokyo. Well, 2,000 yen for just one of these. Which one would be the one in the picture? It's either this or that. 2,000 yen is a lot. It's an inari sushi, which would be, the yellow part is fried tofu. Inside there's rice, and on top, some fish. It's true, extremely, way too expensive. 1,000 yen is also expensive. Ah, well, it's fine. There are like shows, right?
The place is nicely decorated.
3,000 yen for a little bit of seared wagyu. So you eat it half raw, $20. Skewered items are always the cheapest. Well, croquette for 300 yen. Croquette, which is almost like a nugget. Whoa. 18,000 yen for a pair of big crab legs. Well, crab, I know it's expensive. Not sure if this is pricier than usual, but oh well. Well, here we are in the food court on the 3rd floor. And well, the food doesn't go below $20 or $30. Well, anyway, when it comes to fresh fish and all that, this is one of the places where you can get it the freshest and all that. But no, I don't take away any credit from what you can find in any other area of Tokyo, which costs much less, right? Today, 2 people had a meal with 2 beers for $20. Here, that same amount only covers 1 meal for 1 person. 1 dish, that's just how it is. Because it's a place really made for tourism, right? Here we go to the Tsukiji market, the old market. The prices are more or less the same as here, almost. Oh, I thought it was ramen, but it's actually udon. This one is priced about normal, just slightly more expensive than usual. And we've been riding our bikes for about half an hour or more since the last time we turned on the camera, and we finally arrived at an area that looks like a normal city, with alleys full of little restaurants and things like that. That feeling is much less artificial than what you get in all of Odaiba, the whole group of islands, because now we're on Toyoso Island, where, even though it's an artificial island, I think if I'm not mistaken, it must be one of the first ones that were made. Since they're the ones closest to what is the coast of Tokyo Bay, right? Even so, the area feels very modern with this street, little restaurants, shops, cafes, and all that. But on the side we came from, it's all modern buildings, just towers and offices. But of course, here it's more lively, because besides the Yurikomom line, this train doesn't have a driver. The subway passes through, and the subway connects more directly to downtown Tokyo and the rest of the city. It sounds like a joke, but public transportation here gives a lot of importance to neighborhoods. If there's public transportation, shops and similar businesses set up here, because people in Tokyo rely heavily on public transportation. I already have my license, and I think it's been about 2 months since the last time I drove. But basically, that's where it started, and there, just 1 block over, there's the bridge to cross to the other side of the island, and all the little shops and restaurants are closed now. Let's see, it's already nighttime. And honestly, after walking around here a bit, we realized that, well, the neighborhood is really nice, the area is nice. But the experience here feels kind of artificial. Since it's a very new city, there aren't any old alleys or anything like that. So it doesn't feel like authentic Japan. The attempt is pretty good, but well, there are people who like living in this area. I think it's totally acceptable, but it's not really my thing, you know. By the way, just as a curiosity, the way they created these islands is basically with soil sand and then a lot of rubble. Because, of course, since it was during the bubble era, there were a lot of old buildings being demolished and leftover construction materials, which were also used to fill in the ground in this area, right? They even used household waste. But of course, it was processed, so it wouldn't cause contamination. But it's interesting that they created several islands, gaining land in the largest city in the country, basically using leftovers from what was available, right? But Of course, it wasn't something cheap to do. Basically, you're here and you don't know what country you're in, right? We can't take away the credit that it's nice, but what's the problem too? That basically, if you go out to the islands around here, let's see, I say this because when you live in Tokyo, you move one train stop and you have a whole different world. Just 2 stations away, it's a whole different world. And here, there's not much public transportation, and if you move a little, there's nothing. And the fact is that outside the inhabited or tourist areas, you see a lot of emptiness around, like there's very little. And that's about it. I don't really like that much. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Greetings to you, your family, pet, and annoying neighbor. I'm soaked. We waited so much today. Summer is so hot, I don't want to record in summer anymore. Damn.